Hello and welcome to Let's Play Gladiator. My name is Dark Nishid, aka Les Lumens, and this is my first video, so please bear with me through the learning curve. This game was made by Taito and came out in 1986. It ended up being the preferred pastime for me and a couple of my friends through most of the late 80s and early 90s. My high score is somewhere over 8 million points, and that took me the better part of a day to obtain. I actually had to spend over 30 minutes purposely killing off my extra men on that run to put my name on the board because the laundromat that had the game was closing for the night. 2 quarters is about all it took to keep us out of trouble for a whole day. While it may not look all that impressive in this day and age, its large detailed characters were virtually non-existent at the time. It also had voices, something else that you simply didn't see in arcade games around then. At least where I'm from, odds are we were a light year behind the times. Once YouTube took off, I decided to take a look and see if there were any videos up. Well, I discovered that there was very little posted related to the game. There were a couple of demonstrations of stages, a speed run or two, and not really much else. So what my goal is in these videos is to delve into the finer aspects of the game. I'm going to start off with some of the simple mechanics for what we always call the chance stages, which are the walks through the castle between fights with the Guardians. The first thing I'm going to demonstrate is something basic about points in the game. Bear with me with the pause screens on here and not much going on in the video, but there's a lot I have to explain related to a few seconds worth of actual gameplay. I got my emulator set up with the save state to make this easier for me, so let's go. There you see I hit that fireball with my sword. When you look up at my points, you see I've got 500 points. So now let's load up the save state and try that again. Now, this time, I'm just going to let that fireball hit my shield. You see, I only got 200 points for that. So the first thing you need to know is that you get more points for hitting traps in the chance stages with your sword than you do for blocking them with your shield. The reason points are important is extra men. Depending on how the cabinet is set up, you either get an extra man every 100,000 points or just at the first 100,000 points. In my experience, most of the machines were set up for every 100,000. Having those extra men can be pretty vital against the last few difficult enemies of the castle. Until you get their patterns down, you're going to be dying a lot. Now I'm going to demonstrate the first of the Gladiator's magical abilities. Whenever you have full armor in the chance stages, you can conjure up what's called the electric shield. You do this by rapidly moving your shield up and down several times using the joystick. As soon as I conjure it up, keep track of my points, I'll tell you why in just a second. Once the electric shield's up, you're virtually invulnerable. You can make mistakes and get hit by some of the traps if you dance back and forth on the screen too much in the later stages or in the hard mode of the game on any stage. But if you stay at the back of the screen or in one place, absolutely none of the traps can hit you until the third stage. As you see there right before I paused it, the electric shield also wears off. So if you're going to use it, you have to get used to how long it stays active and be prepared to put it back up again, or at least be ready to block. Now for the reason I told you to watch my points. You notice that I got no points for the traps that hit the electric shield. Zip, zilch, nada. Thus, I don't recommend using the electric shield for the same reason I suggest hitting traps with your sword whenever possible. Points equals extra men, and extra men are good. Moving on to the next trap in the game, which also leads to Gladiator's second magical ability. After the first barrage of fireballs, a sword is going to fly at me from off screen. There it is. Hit with your sword or block it with your shield. You're better off hitting it with your sword because it'll always fall farther away when you block it with your sword. Now, once you get it down on the ground, you want to walk over it and pick it up by pressing down with the joystick. You got to be a little careful with this because it can be a bit tricky sometimes. The controls are a little bit stiff. Once you pick it up, you see you get 2,000 bonus points, but it also increments a hidden counter for the second magical ability. If you can pick up 4 of those swords in a chance stage, your sword will turn red. That's the magical effect, which I'll demonstrate a little bit later on. Now for the next important item in the chance stages, shortly after the first sword, which you can see laying there on the ground where I've knocked it down, a green bat will fly in carrying a gold shield at about the same time the second sword shows up. What you want to do is make sure you swing your sword high and knock that gold shield down because you absolutely want the thing. Now you see I picked it up. I got 2,000 bonus points for it. More importantly, I've got the gold shield. The gold shield is invulnerable to damage. Your gray shield that you start the game out with will take a little bit of damage every time a fireball, a sword, or anything hits it. And eventually it'll start flashing and start offering less protection. It shrinks down in size until it reaches what I call the beer mug state, which is just barely the size of your fist and offers little to no protection. The gold shield is always going to have the full range of protection no matter how many fireballs or sword strikes hits it, so make sure you grab that gold shield whenever you see it. Even if you've already got it, grab it for those bonus points. Finally, we have the last power-up style item you can get in the chance stages. A crystal ball will appear at set points in the chance stages, making a rather distinctive sound to alert you. This hovers near the top of the screen for a short while, and then it'll drift away if you don't do anything with it, so you need to make sure you get it. First things first, do not hit it with your shield. If you hit it with your shield, you don't gain any of the benefits it offers. Swing the sword high and bust the crystal ball. As soon as I get to it and break it here, you'll see what happens. I've purposely lost a few plates of armor to help demonstrate this. It destroys all the traps that are currently on screen. You get 2,000 bonus points as soon as the spider hits the ground, but most importantly, it replaces any armor plates that you lost walking through the chance stage. So now I've got full armor. Even if you've got full armor and you're not worried about the traps because you've mastered blocking them, you still want to hit it for the bonus points, of course. Now let's actually make a full run through the first chance stage. I'm a little bit out of practice, and this controller doesn't even feel remotely natural compared to the arcade controls, but we're going to give it a shot anyway. What are those things on the columns back there? They look like a skeleton wearing a Native American headdress. I have no idea. Just try to block the traps with your sword whenever possible. Don't forget to grab everything that falls to the ground. And now there you see I've got full armor and the red sword ready to go into battle with the first of the Guardians. Time to face the first of the Guardians in Mortal Kombat. No, not really. I'm actually going to demonstrate a couple more things first. First thing I want to show is you see my shield just started blinking. It's already been broken down its first stage. And now it's down to the final stage, which is what I call the beer mug. It offers next to no protection worth anything. You want to avoid this by getting that gold shield. Now, the next thing I want to show you is what happens when you activate the red sword's ability. You can see I've got the red sword there. All you do to activate the red sword's magical ability is hit your opponent's shield. Once you've hit it enough, the magical effect will come into play. You also notice that I'm missing a helmet there. That's also on purpose. There we are. You'll start flashing gold, and you'll become temporarily invulnerable. All your armor plates will come back, and while you're still flashing, any armor plate that is knocked off will immediately return. So you're technically sort of invulnerable in a way. See, there it is. That as soon as your magic effect runs out, you're back in trouble again. Solon, fight! The first named enemy in the game, named during the demo stages. He is not a tough opponent whatsoever. The first way you can go about it is to try to break off his sword. He's got a predictable pattern. He takes a few shots straight, then a few shots high, then a few shots low. After that, he gets a little bit more unpredictable. But the first thing you can try to do is try to break his sword off. All you have to do is just keep matching his shots. If he starts running up on you like this, block with your shield and hit straight to hit his sword, and that'll get him back off of you. And all you have to do is just keep hitting his sword repeatedly, and eventually it will break off. In my opinion, it's kind of safe, but I actually think the more aggressive method is even safer. So we're going to go ahead and do that instead. I'm actually running low on time for this video, so I'm going to demonstrate just a couple more little things here first, and then we'll get into the actual fighting in the next video. If you hit your opponent's shield, it will break down just like your gray shield will. You see it starts to flash, and then it'll break down, and then it'll flash again and break down again. And every opponent's shield in the game can be broken down. Even the hardest enemies in the game, you can get their shield down to what I call the beer mug level. Now, another thing you want to know is that every piece of armor your opponent wears, you see, if you look at my score, is worth points. So you want to make sure you try, if possible, to strip off as much armor as you can. And that's pretty much all the time I've got left, so thanks for watching, and I hope it's informative. Next time we'll actually get in here and show you how to really fight these enemies. This is Darknishid, signing off.